As the spacecraft soared through the vast expanse of space, astronaut Jenna felt a sense of unease settle over her. She had been on numerous missions before, but there was something different about this one. It was as if the darkness of space was pressing in on her, suffocating her. Jenna tried to shake off the feeling and focused on her task at hand. The mission was to explore a distant planet that had been discovered just a few months earlier. Jenna was part of a team of 4 astronauts who had been chosen for the mission, and they had all been trained extensively for this moment. As they entered the planet's atmosphere, Jenna couldn't help but marvel at the planet's beauty. The sky was a deep shade of purple, and the landscape was covered in a dense forest of tall trees that glowed with an otherworldly light. The team set up camp and began to explore the planet. Jenna's job was to take soil and rock samples, which she did diligently. However, as the day wore on, Jenna began to notice something strange. It was as if the forest was alive, as if it was watching them. That night, as the team settled in for the night, Jenna's unease grew. She had a feeling that something was watching them, something that was not of this world. As she drifted off to sleep, she was plagued by strange dreams of alien creatures lurking in the shadows. The next day, things took a turn for the worse. The team had split up to cover more ground, and Jenna was alone, taking samples. Suddenly, she heard a strange noise, a low growling sound that seemed to be coming from deep within the forest. Jenna's heart raced as she realized that she was not alone. She looked around frantically, but there was no sign of anyone or anything. She tried to radio the other members of the team, but her communications were down. As she stumbled through the forest, trying to find her way back to camp, Jenna felt as if she was being stalked. The growling sound grew louder, and she could hear the sound of something rustling through the leaves. Suddenly, a large, humanoid figure appeared in front of her. It was covered in fur and had sharp, pointed teeth. Jenna stumbled backward, fear gripping her. The creature lunged at her, and Jenna barely managed to dodge out of the way. She ran as fast as she could, her heart pounding in her chest. As she ran, she could hear the creature chasing her, its footsteps echoing through the forest. Jenna stumbled and fell, scraping her knee. She tried to get up, but the pain was too much. She turned around to face the creature, ready to fight for her life. But what she saw next made her freeze. The creature was not a monster, but a human being. He was covered in fur and wearing a mask that made him look like a monster. Jenna realized that he was one of the other astronauts who had gone rogue, driven mad by the isolation and the unknown. Jenna tried to reason with him, but it was no use. The other astronaut was completely unhinged, and he attacked Jenna without mercy. She fought back as best she could, but she was no match for him. As Jenna lay on the ground, blood pooling around her, she realized that the darkness of space was nothing compared to the darkness of the human soul. She had thought that she was prepared for anything that the universe could throw at her, but she had not been prepared for this. As the other astronaut loomed over her, a twisted smile on his face, Jenna knew that this was the end. She closed her eyes, feeling a sense of resignation settle over her. But then, something strange happened. Jenna felt a jolt of electricity shoot through her body, and when she opened her eyes again, she was no longer on the planet. Instead, she was in a brightly lit room, surrounded by people in white lab coats. Confused and disoriented, Jenna tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through her head. She winced and lay back down, taking deep breaths to calm herself. One of the scientists approached her, a concerned expression on his face. "Jenna, can you hear me?" he asked. Jenna nodded weakly. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "You're back on Earth," the scientist replied. "We had to bring you back early because of a malfunction in the spacecraft's engine." Jenna frowned. "What about the planet? The other astronauts?" she asked. The scientist hesitated. "There was no planet, Jenna. The mission was cancelled due to technical difficulties," he said, his voice gentle. Jenna's mind reeled. Had it all been a hallucination? A nightmare? She couldn't believe that the planet and the other astronauts had all been in her head. But then, she remembered the creature, the rogue astronaut who had attacked her. She shuddered at the memory and realized that even if it had all been a hallucination, the darkness of the human soul was still a very real thing. As Jenna tried to come to terms with what had happened, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She couldn't explain it, but it was as if there was a nagging voice in the back of her mind, telling her that there was more to the story. Days turned into weeks, and Jenna tried to move on from the experience. She returned to her normal life, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She felt as if she had left a part of herself behind on that imaginary planet. One day, as she was scrolling through her social media feed, Jenna came across an article that caught her eye. It was about a secret government project that had been experimenting with a new kind of virtual reality technology. The project had been shut down after a test subject had gone rogue and attacked the others. Jenna's heart skipped a beat as she read the article. She realized with a shock that the project sounded eerily similar to her experience on the imaginary planet. Was it possible that she had been part of the project without even realizing it? As Jenna delved deeper into the article, she found a name that made her blood run cold. It was the name of the scientist who had approached her after the malfunction on the spacecraft. The same scientist who had told her that the mission had been cancelled. Jenna knew then that there was more to the story than she had initially thought. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had been a pawn in a larger game, that she had been used as a test subject in a government experiment. But why? What was the purpose of the experiment? And what had happened to the other astronauts? Jenna knew that she had to find out the truth. She began to investigate the project, using her skills to track down any information she could find. She dug deep, scouring government databases and contacting other scientists who had worked on the project. What she uncovered was shocking. The project had been designed to create a new kind of virtual reality experience, one that would simulate the feeling of exploring an alien planet. The goal was to see how humans would react to the isolation and the unknown, to study the effects of long-term space travel. But something had gone wrong. One of the test subjects had gone rogue, driven mad by the isolation and the unknown. He had attacked the others, causing chaos and destruction in the virtual world. In order to prevent a disaster, the project had been shut down and all traces of it erased from official records. Jenna was horrified by what she had uncovered. She couldn't believe that she had been part of such a project without her knowledge or consent. And she couldn't help but wonder what had happened to the other astronauts. Were they still trapped in the virtual world, lost forever in a nightmare of their own making? Determined to find out, Jenna continued her investigation. She eventually discovered a hidden server that contained a backup of the project's data and the location of the other astronauts. With the help of some tech-savvy friends, she was able to hack into the server and access the virtual world once again. What she found there was beyond anything she had imagined. The other astronauts were still trapped, still living out their own personal hells. And the rogue astronaut was still there, more twisted and insane than ever. Jenna knew that she had to act fast. She couldn't leave her fellow astronauts trapped in the virtual world any longer. With the help of her friends, she was able to shut down the project for good, freeing the other astronauts from their digital prison. As the project was shut down, Jenna felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had finally found closure, finally put the nightmare behind her. But she also knew that the experience had changed her forever. She had seen the darkness of the human soul, seen what people were capable of when pushed to their limits. But she had also seen the strength and resilience of the human spirit. She had seen how people could come together to overcome even the most impossible odds. And for that, she was grateful.